shit at the pilot. Niggas be broken, be solving, but still talking shit like they violent. Niggas is broke.
Kyrie, man, Kyrie, what the hell are you? I'm confused. I really am confused. You have games like game 3 and 4. You hit shots like the shots you hit in Christmas and in game 7 of the finals last year. And I'm just like, how is this man not a top 3 point guard in the league? But then you look at the other players on the list, how consistent they are and how valuable they are to their team and how skilled they are compared to Kyrie. And I'm just like, how the hell do people even think Kyrie is a top 5 point guard? So let me dive into this, because me personally, I'm confused myself, because there are 2 types of people in this world. One that believe that Kyrie is a top 5 point guard in the league, and one that does not believe he's top 5. I'm just trying to figure out who's right, or at least who has the better case. First of all, let's not get it confused. As good as Kyrie is against the Warriors right now, as good as a player he is when he plays Curry, he is not better than Westbrook or Curry or Harden. These guys for the past 3 years have been perennial MVP candidates, and each should have won one if Harden got it in 2015, which I believe he should have. The value of these guys to their team is just irreplaceable, and you simply can't say Kyrie's better than them. Now, even as I say that, I know some of you guys are already saying, well, have you seen Kyrie the last 2 games? Did you see Kyrie against the Celtics in game 4? Did you see what Kyrie did against the Warriors in game 5 last year? I have. That's the thing. That's what makes it so tricky and hard, because when Kyrie does play these other point guards, he does outplay them most of the time, and he does put up a fight, even with the Hardens and the Westbrooks and the Currys. That just speaks to how good point guards are these days, when that guy is not even a top 3 point guard in the league. That's just insane. And I feel like the main difference between Kyrie and these other point guards that are on the list is that Kyrie plays better than all of them when the lights are at their brightest, when the big moment arises. The problem is, it's not that Kyrie can't put his team in position for these big moments like these other guys. It's that these other guys are just never given the big situations that Kyrie has been given, because the Cavs just have such a better team than everybody else besides the Spurs and the Warriors. It's like in the early 2000s with Kobe, Vince, T-Mac, and Iverson. Yes, Kobe was clutch as hell. Yes, he was putting up these ridiculous ass numbers and winning rings on top of it and being in the finals every year. But the thing is, T-Mac and Iverson and Vince never had the luxury of a Shaquille O'Neal or a Pau Gasol or a Phil Jackson. The closest thing that these guys have had to a Shaq was when T-Mac had Yao Ming in 08. And when he did, he went on a 16-game winning streak with Yao until he got injured, and the streak ended at 22. And the same goes for Kyrie's competition. His competition never had a guy like LeBron, and probably never will. Wall has who? Bradley Beal? Great player, but he's not LeBron. Isaiah Thomas had who? Al Horford? Avery Bradley? Chris Paul? Well, yeah, he had Blake and DeAndre, but his value to his team is still so significant. I mean, I guess you can say Kyle Lowry has DeRozan, but there's also a case for Kyle Lowry to actually be better than Kyrie. Keyword is case, alright? Just watch the video first. Yes, Kyrie performs big time, when the lights are brightest. And yes, he can take over games, and we haven't seen that from these other guys. At least to the degree that Kyrie has shown us in the past couple of years, in these big ass games. But the only reason we haven't seen it from these other guys is because they're never put in the position, because they don't have the team that Kyrie has. So to me, the question is now, is Kyrie better than all of except one out of Chris Paul, Isaiah Thomas, Kyle Lowry, and John Wall? Let's start with Kyle Lowry. I'm sorry, but if the only real difference between Kyle Lowry and Kyrie Irving is 1 assist and 1.5 rebounds, I'm going to have to give the nod to Kyrie, because he shows up way more in the playoffs, and he's basically averaging the same stats as Lowry. I just feel as if Irving's skill set is more diverse than Lowry. He can take over games more, and he's 6 years younger. So I'm going to give that edge to Kyrie. Next is Isaiah Thomas. Look, Isaiah Thomas is my favorite player in the NBA right now. But between IT and Kyrie, this may be one of the few cases where the switch team scenario would work in favor of Kyrie. Kyrie, being the number 2 option, is averaging just as good, if not better, in every single statistical category as IT. The only difference is IT averaged 4 more points than Kyrie this season, except Kyrie is a second option on his team. And also, while Kyrie is not a good defender, he's still better than IT, who statistically was the worst defender in the league. So in that case, I'm gonna give the nod to Kyrie. So now there's only Chris Paul and John Wall, and he only has to be better than one of them to make it to the top 5. And to start it off, let's go with John Wall. If y'all saw my top 10 players in the Eastern Conference video, you would have seen that I said John Wall is the second best player in the Eastern Conference, and I still stand by that today. And with that being said, that means Kyrie is not better than John Wall. I know what you might be saying. So how is John Wall better than Kyrie when he choked in Game 7 versus Boston? Well, first of all, he did not choke. He had a bad shooting game. Everyone is allowed to have those, alright? He tried his best. The shots just were not falling that night. In the game before, he shot a game winner to even force a Game 7. So I don't want to hear the whole John Wall choked argument. I could easily turn around and say, where was Kyrie the first 2 games of these finals? But I'm not going to do that because both arguments are bad either way. He can take over games just like Kyrie. He can finish just like Kyrie. He's a better defender than Kyrie. He's more physical than Kyrie. He's a way better passer than Kyrie. He has the killer mentality like Kyrie. And on top of that, he leads his team. So I just can't give Kyrie the nod over Wall. And now Chris Paul. Now let me remind y'all that this is about who's playing better basketball right now, or at least in the span of the last 3 years. Because if we're talking resume and all time, I definitely have Chris Paul over Kyrie. But as of right now, as we speak today, it is debatable who's better. Chris Paul is one of those guys that on paper is just so good even right now. I mean, if we look at the stat sheet this year, Chris Paul in almost every statistical category is better than Kyrie, except for points. And he's the leader of a top 4 team in the Western Conference. That's pretty easy, right? Chris Paul should be better than Kyrie. But it's a scenario like this where I'm really confused, because it's hard for me to say that a guy who didn't even make it out the first round this year and has never led his team past the second round, with 2 perennial All-Stars the last 4 to 5 years, who also blew a 3-1 lead, is better than the guy that with LeBron came back from a 3-1 lead against a 73-win Warrior team and is doing what he's doing right now in the finals. So I really don't know, because it depends on the day. But today, I'm leaning towards Chris Paul. But just not a lot, man. It's like 51-49. So it's definitely not a landslide. But nonetheless, I'm leaning towards CP3. And you know what? As I'm writing this script, I almost forgot about Dame. Is Kyrie even better than Dame? That's also debatable. So going off of this video, I don't think Kyrie is a top 5 point guard in the league. But you guys have to realize, man, we are living in the golden age of point guards, man. And the NBA has definitely struck gold on this one. We have 3 point guards in the league right now. When it's all said and done, could be top 40 players of all time. Arguably top 30 in Harden, Russ, and Curry. Wall's still young and could potentially be up there as well if he wins a ring or 2. Chris Paul is already a top 10 point guard of all time. Not in his prime anymore, but still extremely good, even right now. So man, you know what, it's just hard. It's just hard because you look at Kyrie and it's like, no one can do what he's doing right now. And you guys are right. No one can do what he's doing right now. But I feel like the question becomes, can Kyrie do what these other guys are doing for their teams for a whole season without LeBron? So to conclude, I do not think Kyrie Irving is a top 5 point guard, and it's not because he's not good, not at all, because he's amazing. It's just that it's hard to put him above these other guys. But with that being said, man, I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I am out. Peace.